Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ascent Meridian Technology Center's live stream. My name is Julie Griffin, and I'm a project manager here in our Workforce and Economic Development Department. And I am, once again, just so excited to be here with you. Live streaming is just a great way to introduce my audience to the Meridian audience, to everybody else. It's a great way to link and get to know each other. If you are watching, please drop a comment because that is how we know you are here. We have a little eyeball that tells us people are watching, but unless you are commenting, we can't see you, especially if you are watching on one of our paired platforms, either on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are watching. So with that, our guest today is a super cool human being and is the teacher for one of our really cool classes. And if you've ever had to have your vehicle have some body work, you know that there is a long waiting time to get into the good shops. So Jordan Short is our collision repair instructor, and he is joining us today. So come on out, Jordan. How are you today, sir?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Oh, just doing wonderful. Hoping that I don't have a coughing fit in the middle of our conversation. So if I mute and go like this, we'll know what is happening. So glad you're here. We're getting kicked off a little bit later than normal, but that's okay. So just start off by telling us a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll just go from there.
All right. So I'm actually a product of Meridian. I started my collision repair career here as a student and actually sat in the same classroom I teach from. So this is a really cool opportunity for me to come full circle and be able to teach some of the skills I learned here and some of the skills I learned along the way to our students here. 20-year career. I've been a body man and a painter several different times in my career. I've worked several different shops. I've worked everything from full custom stretching crazy excursions to make them 6 doors or even more sometimes. Done custom paint jobs for older cars and restorations, and then my bread and butter was production work, fixing everybody's just everyday cars and making sure they were safe to drive after their incident or accident, whatever you want to call it. So
gotcha. Very good. So how long have you been the instructor here at Meridian?
So just over a year. I'm starting my 2nd year of teaching. It's been a different experience, very rewarding. I really enjoy students, and I really enjoy helping them learn and being able to give some of the knowledge and skills that I've acquired over the years back to students. So
I understand that. So when you were a student here at Meridian in the collision repair class, think about that experience and then the experience that you're giving the students now. How have things changed over the years?
So this particular career has changed a whole lot over the years. Technology has become a part of the cars we drive, and we went from having the main computer that ran your engine to having so many computers that just sometimes you can't even count that run your car. So we've got advanced driving aids like ADAS, and we have just so many more doodads that are part of the car today, and then the safety features as well with advanced safety features and the airbags and everything else. It just makes our repair process a lot more intensive than it once was. There's also new metals that have come out since then that are super strong, harder to repair, or must be replaced depending on the situation and what part of the car they are. There's just so much that has changed since I was a student, and then not only that, paint technology has changed considerably. So there's new vibrant colors, there's tri-coats and even quad coats that are really, really hard to nail so that people can't tell that car's been fixed.
Gotcha. Very cool. So talk about, I saw when I was in your shop the other day, you had the different paint options for that car that you guys are going to custom paint, right? And I saw that one of those was the winner. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, maybe contest and that particular process and how that fits into your class curriculum?
So with my 2nd year students have had a little bit of exposure to the paint process, and they have they know the basics. but I wanted to kind of push their skill envelope a little bit and give them a challenge. And through that, we chose one of the school cars that needed a paint job anyways, and I've tailored
Mhm.
it to fit about 5 other classes in the process of getting it ready to paint. And then to make it exciting for the students, we had proof of concept panels that we told them there's only one restriction, and that is that the factory color of the car has to be part of the color scheme. And then I let them go out, take their own creativity, their own wild color schemes, whatever, and make a panel of what they thought that car would look like as a neat, cool car that you
Mhm.
see from the 90s, because it is like, I think, a 99 or 2000 Dodge product. So,
Okay.
and then
Very
and
cool.
we took those results and made a poll that we put out on all of our platforms, and we had
Mhm.
one that won by a rather large margin, and that's the one that we chose. And we've actually finished the first panel with that scheme yesterday, so it'll be rolling out on our social media soon with some updates. So
That's exciting. So I just went to our Facebook. I want to see if I can screen share this and then let you talk about it a little bit, just because it's like, um, there we go. So is that the winning panel?
so that is the winning panel. Kyler is one of our second year students, and that was what he dreamed up, those colors and everything. The dark blue on the bottom is actually the original color of the car.
Okay.
And those pinstripes, it looked like just straight black pinstripes. There are actually 3 pinstripes in there. And we have made one change, the kind of turquoisey teal color. There's one pinstripe of it on the other end of that. So he dreamed that up, and then we sat there and we looked at the car and we're like, well, how is this scheme going to fit on this car? And he's like, well, it doesn't really go with the body lines, it doesn't go with this. So we kind of workshopped it a little bit, threw some ideas out there, laid the panel in the car, different areas, trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And so now the car is cut down the center, and one side of the car is the crazy teal turquoisey color, and the other side of the car is the original color.
Okay.
And it zigzags across the hood to one side and zigzags across the trunk to the other side. But so far, the only panel that's finished is the hood, and we'll be sharing an update on that soon.
Very cool. Well, what a great, I think, learning process for taking what you're, learning in the classroom and then applying it to like an actual vehicle.
So yeah, I really like to make the work be something they can be proud of. Make Because learning doesn't have to be dull. It doesn't have to be hard. It needs to be something you enjoy and that you can be passionate about. And that may just seem like, kind of a silly project because it's an older car that's not super valuable, but by making that contest and making the community involved in the process, we've made that more meaningful for the students, and they're a lot more invested in getting that vehicle ready to paint and painting it correctly and doing all the process and steps. So they're actually paying more attention on what's important because of all the community involvement and the eyes on them now. So
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Very cool. So, how about, I know one of the things that I've heard since I've been here at Meridian, and I think we kind of had a conversation about this too when we were talking about you coming live with me, was the impact that the industry support has had on the class. And that a couple years ago, like there was thoughts that maybe even the collision repair class was going away. Can you talk some more about that?
So yes, I was part of industry at that time, and the word on the street was that the collision repair program Meridian was closing down and was going to be no more. And I was kind of taken aback because that's where I'm from. It's like, this is my home. This is my home class. Like,
Yeah.
so I had an apprentice at the time that thought he was going to get kicked to the street, or to find a different program. Took it really, really hard. Took it home and thought about it a lot, and so kind of bugged me. So sorry, I'm a little emotional, but
Okay.
a lot of friends, I've been in this business for 20 years, and a lot of my friends came through the same program. We all banded together and talked about it and made phone calls. My current boss, I was on the phone for her for, probably an hour telling her how it was crazy that they're shutting it down and everything. And so we brought together a round table of the whole community of body shops that had either had students that worked for them over the years or had come through that. A lot of the shops that I've worked in, somebody in that shop had been a product of Meridian. So we all got together and we had a big roundtable discussion. We talked about why the program was, possibly on the cutting block and all the factors and metrics and everything else. And then, the decision was made to keep it, but that it had to perform. And how do we get there? And all the shops stepped up. I think the best thing that could have ever happened to this program was the fact that people thought it was closing or thought it was going away, because then the community came alive. They're like, oh, we can't lose that. We can't lose that. Because some of the statistics for collision repair in Oklahoma are pretty scary. The average age of a tech is in his 50s. There's a lot of people looking towards retirement or changing to a less hard on your body or less strenuous part of the process. And so there's a huge need for techs. And if anybody's had a car in a shop recently, it is impossible to get it in and out on time. There's, huge backlog. Most of the shops that are in my advisor committee, they got a 3-month wait list to even get your car in. And a lot of that is labor shortage. There's also some other stuff left over from COVID and some of the parts availability. And right now they're fixing to be new parts availability problems because of the union strikes and everything. But a huge factor of that was labor force. And so we kind of zeroed in and identified that this program needed to stay around, but it needed to have some changes. And some of those changes were some of the way we instruct, and some of it was we added an apprenticeship program where people that are interested in this career or have a job in this career but don't have the training could still work and come and be a part of the learning process. And so we made a lot of adjustments, and so far we've had some awesome results. We got great community involvement. Our recruiting events, we had people from all over our sending schools brought props and stuff out, and we've got really, really good body shop. I think our trying to think of the best way to describe it, but our advisory board meeting set the record last year for the largest attendance. We had people all the way from St. Louis that came down to try to help. So it's been awesome being part of that. And it's been a really rewarding thing to be able to bring this back and make it perform. So
Very cool. That's very cool. I love the kind of like the full circle story about how so many people had come through the program and when needed, like really stepped up to support it and keep it alive and thriving. Excuse me. You mentioned the apprenticeship program. So I know you've been working a lot with Joe Steele, our apprenticeship coordinator. So can you talk a little bit more about the apprenticeship program as it relates to your collision repair class?
So several of our supporting shops have new hires or current employees that may not have all the skills they need to be in the position they want to be or in the position they're trying to fill. And through some of Joe's research and my research and a few trips to go look at other functioning apprenticeship programs, we kind of forged our own path and made our own way. But we use a lot of advice from people that have done it successfully, but made our own Meridian product, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And as it is right now, we have, I think we're going on 11 active apprentices from our local sending shops, and they're all either going to be in a bodyman helper position or a painter's helper's position. And so we have tailored courses that fill their skills gaps that they can come to twice a week for half a day and learn what they're missing in their skill set. And it's been extremely rewarding because they come with real problems like, how do I fix this? How do I solve this? Why is my paint doing this? Or, I'm working out on this kind of dent or this kind of metal and having these problems. Like, what are ways we can fix that? And it's really rewarding for me because I once was a tech that struggled with that, and having a good mentor is hard to find sometimes in the bodywork world because you've got it's a production driven environment. You're paid by the job, not by the hour. If the car says it takes 20 hours to fix it and you fix it in 5, you still get those 20 hours. So slowing down to teach someone really, really cuts production and it cuts your paycheck. So that's part of the labor problem, I think, is a lot of the experienced techs, they don't want to slow down enough to be able to bring the other techs up. And so these guys, they're struggling and they feel like they're in the way and everything else. And that's where my program can really help and advance their skills, as they get to come bring those problems to somebody that isn't on the clock and trying to make, cars go home as fast as possible so they can make a big paycheck. So
yeah, that's good. So what has the employer response been to being able to have apprentices in your class and being able to have them, bring those live problems to the classroom and say, hey, can you help me troubleshoot this, for when they go back to the office? What has that employer response been?
So far, feedback has been really good. And we've had several success stories where my paint class, I've got 2 guys that they buff and they try to fix paint problems. Like, you may have a run or a little chunk of dirt or something, and if you don't know how to do that correctly, you can ruin the paint job and have to have a redo. And those guys will come back and they brag about, hey, I got a run out and it came out perfect. We didn't have to redo it. Before we would have had to redo that, but now I know how to fix it. And so there's some of that. And then part of the reason why we were late coming on the air, we hosted a paint training program, and the shops actually sent all of the apprentices and some of the head painters even to come train with the Sherwin-Williams team and the trainers from the headquarters. And they came and taught a 2-day course, kind of crunched down, but taught a 2-day course on how paint works and what chemicals are in it and why they do what they do and everything, and refreshed some of the older veteran painters, maybe taught them some new tricks. And then we also did a minor intro into color theory that really helps when you don't know why stuff shifts the way it does or is the way it is. And so we ran a little long, and then I didn't get on the stream as quick as I should have, but
That's okay.
we had shops send their whole crew pretty much. I had there's Advanced Collision and Collins Collision. They sent like almost their whole crew to this class, even the body guys, because they want the body guys to know how to prep for the primer correctly so that it is a perfect repair, or whatever you want to call it. It's been interesting. I really enjoy being part of the solution and being able to help give back. So
Right. Well, you were doing a good thing for the community and for your industry, so we'll let it slide that you were a few minutes late getting on with us. That's not a problem. So looking at, you said you're in your 2nd year of instructing, right?
correct.
So what is your favorite part, and what would you say was like your biggest lesson from your 1st year of instructing to going into your 2nd year?
So the hardest part for me was I came from that production background, and for school we got to slow down, and it's been that was really tough because I'm so used to producing. I would send cars to the paint shop. I was the head body guy, and I was so used to producing product that to slow down and teach, you want to be like, oh, get out of my way, I'll show you how to do that. But I can't do that because they need to know how to do it. So I had to really discipline myself and let them screw up, let them fail, so that we could work through it together. And that was a little tough. And I did a lot of reflection on what how my career, how I got to be at the level I was at when I stepped out to become the teacher, and had to do a lot of thinking and planning and kind of try to figure out how to reward those students in a way that even when they fail, they could see it as a positive. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job, but it is tough sometimes because I just want to step in and be like, no, let's not, you know. But some days I just have to let them screw up. Like, okay, what did we do wrong? Like, how do we fix it? And that was probably the hardest thing, was the production speed is extremely slow in a school, and then the just having to let them fail sometimes so that they can learn a lesson it was tough. Now that we kind of embraced that, it's a lot easier this year, and I think we're having a quicker learning curve because I'm not doing as much demonstrating as I am helping them learn. So,
Okay, that's interesting. And I think that's a really great lesson, I think, for everybody who's not only in education, but even thinking as a, a parent, letting your children, or, if you're a coach or whatever, letting them learn by doing, and recognizing that when you can fail in a safe environment, you can learn a lot faster.
well, knowing what to do, and that's one thing I try to stress to them. I said, listen, when we screw up, it's a teachable moment. I said, it's not. This isn't a this may happen to you on the job, and if it didn't happen here, you wouldn't know how to fix it. But since it happened here, we're all going to know how to fix it. You know, if everything went perfect the whole time you're in school, you get your job as a painter's helper, your job as a body guy's helper, and you start having problems, but you've never seen them before, and you don't have that problem solving ability, you're going to feel like totally lost and not have any idea what to do. But now you're going to have this whole toolbox full of solutions or ideas that can help you find a solution. So,
right, having that critical thinking capability is huge. So what would you say is one thing that the general populace probably doesn't know about the collision repair industry that we should know?
um, I don't know. There's a lot of things they should know, but
Or
I would say,
something that you guys wish we knew, like, oh, I wish you knew this about our
so.
industry.
Here's a wild one for you that we went over in paint class today that probably the public doesn't realize. Your vehicle probably doesn't match from the factory. The paint doesn't match from the factory because there's multiple suppliers that send those painted parts to the final assembly plant. And a lot of times people don't notice color match until after they've been in an accident. They buy a new car, they just assume that it's perfect. And there may be 4 or 5 different variants on a car, or from one side to the other, there may be different variation in their color. And then when we paint something on it, they're like, well, that doesn't match. And there's multiple factors that cause that. And that's something that is really, really tough for painters to, I'm gonna have to mute that. Give me just a second. But that's something that's really tough for us to combat is.
Oh, we lost Jordan. There you are. Uh-oh, we lost your audio, Jordan. There, we got your sound back.
Can you?
Yep, we're good now.
I cannot hear you, so.
Oh, well, I can hear you.
I've lost you. Give me 1 second here. I cannot hear you at all, so I'm gonna step out for just a second.
All right. Well, that's okay. If Jordan comes back, then that's great. But we are about at. Okay, here he's back. Are we good now,
I'm
Jordan?
back, I think.
Okay. All right. One more comment or thought, and then we'll wrap it up.
So, one more comment and thought on something the public should know.
Or anything about your class.
So one thing that's tough for shops to understand early on, luckily the shops I have, is establishing expectations for their new hires. Is we don't have enough time in the day to give them a full turnkey tech. We're giving them the basics and helping them upskill, and that you won't be 100% right out of the gate. It takes that work experience, and that's why the apprenticeship program is so successful. Is they have that work experience and they have problems they can bring back and bring to us. Um, you're not going to be a full blown, full fledged A-Tech right out of right out of school. Have to you're going to have to do your time, and you're going to have to be committed to continue learning because cars are changing constantly. The last 10 years, the amount of changes and the amount of safety features and everything is mind-boggling, and it's hard to keep up. Um, so for me, I've really had to have a commitment to continued learning. I don't want to, since I've stepped away from being a full-fledged tech, I don't want to have my skills stagnate. So I go to a lot of trade shows, and I sit on the board of Oklahoma Auto Body Association, and I'm part of their education committee there. And it's just once you even after you finish school here, there is so much more to know, and you just have to have that commitment to continue learning.
Exactly. Very good. Well, if somebody is interested in your collision repair class, oh, we have a question. It's actually from the Meridian page, but it's probably one of our people. Had a problem with matching colors after my husband got a dent. Is there a way people can make that process easier for the painters?
So there are a lot of new tools and technology that um, have come along. We now have a spectrometer camera that can take a color reading and compare that to variations that are known variations and pick the closest one for you, and then you can tint it from there. But there is hardly ever going to be a perfect match just because of all the factors I was talking about with the manufacturers having so many suppliers and different paint suppliers for different parts depending on cost and everything else. So, but there are a lot of tools and there are some techniques, and you can tint something to where you wouldn't notice the difference, but the time involved is a lot. And a lot of the time, if it's a bumper, it may pay 2 to 3 hours to paint it. Well, if you spent 3 hours matching the paint, then you lost money. So there's a lot of factors in that, and it's a lot bigger problem than what the public realizes as far as what we're up against. So
Gotcha. Very good. Well, if somebody is interested in learning more about the collision repair class, they can go, I think, to this QR code that I've got on the screen. So hopefully you're not watching on mobile, so you can use your phone to scan that. Well, sorry, Jordan, because I know you're on your phone. But for anybody else watching, if you're watching on your computer, you can use your phone to scan that QR code and learn more about Jordan's class. If they're interested in learning about the apprenticeship side of your class, would they call you or would they call Joe?
I say either or. I say they're
Either
welcome
one.
to call either myself or Joe. And if you're a shop in our sending district that has some guys that have got great work ethic or great character qualities that you want to keep around your shop but may not have the skill set that they need for collision, then reach out to us and we'll see if we can set up a training program for them and enroll them in the apprenticeship program and help upskill those guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jordan, for joining us today. I know it was interesting for me to hear more about your class, and I hope everyone else who's here today enjoyed hearing about your class. And yeah, I just hope you have a great day. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. We are at our time. So we are going to sign off. Mark your calendars for the first Friday of December at noon. I don't know who our guest is yet, because our tentative guest can't do it. So it'll be a surprise. And our host that day will be Rebecca Easton, because I will be in Phoenix at the National ACTE Vision Conference. So stay tuned for the Ascent on December 1st. And thank you again, Jordan, for joining us. We will see you guys all next time. Take care.
Thank you.